Yes, indeed. It is a Friday edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Today I'll be going to training camp this afternoon for the first time. Looking forward to that, getting out there and seeing what's what, getting my eyes on training camp. I'll report back in a week because I'm going on vacation next week. But I'm excited to be there and see all the players in person for the first time in a couple of years. We went to training camp once last year. And the year before that, we couldn't go at all, obviously, because of COVID. But after years of going all the time, it's going to be nice to get back to Berea later today. So I'm excited about that. But a lot to talk about off yesterday's day 2 of training camp, including a potentially big injury for the Browns. Defensive back has some interesting comments and a whole lot more. Plus a beef. I've got a beef with some fellow media members. Which is not uncommon for me. That's all coming up on this Friday edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
I guess I gotta use a shave. Should I shave before this morning's Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show? I don't know. We shall see. Anywho, a lot to get to today, and I begin with yesterday's day 2 of training camp for the Cleveland Browns, and some concerning news, potentially concerning news about, obviously, as of now, nothing new on the Deshaun Watson front. But Anthony Schwartz was injured. Now, some of you may say, well, who cares? He didn't do anything last year and blah, blah, blah. But here's the reality. Anthony Schwartz was a high draft pick. He had a rough rookie year. I don't want to write him off. He's a third-round pick. So, the Browns don't really have a deep threat. I'm curious to see what he can do in that role. And now he leaves with an injury. So apparently they were playing on air, non-contact injury, and that's never good. Now he was able to walk off the field, but he had a towel on his head. He walked off with a trainer. But when a guy is running and he's injured without contact, you worry that it can be severe. So I don't want to purposely go to negative town, so we'll hope for the best there. And again, not that Anthony Schwartz is necessarily a make-or-break piece for the Browns, but who knows? I mean, he really didn't get much of a chance last year. Some of that his doing, some of that Baker's doing, some of that Stefanski's doing. But I was curious to see what he could do with Deshaun Watson. Now, again, we still don't know when Deshaun Watson's going to play. But, I said on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show this week, we were talking about who would be most negatively affected by Jacoby Brissett playing instead of Deshaun Watson. And the first name that came to me was Schwartz, because I want to see, the Browns saw something in this guy, right? They saw something in this guy that made them draft him in the 3rd round. That's not a throwaway pick. That's not the 6th round or the 7th round. Wait a second. I think this is my first sneeze on the podcast. But anyway, so they saw something, obviously, and they're not giving up hope on this guy after one, big-time disappointing season. So I was curious to see what he would look like with Deshaun Watson. Now, ultimately, this may be nothing. He may be back tomorrow or next week or whatever, and he may be back, even if he is hurt, before Deshaun Watson's back, because we don't know when Deshaun Watson will be back. I mean, he's there now, but we don't know when he's going to play. So I don't want to get carried away here, but the Browns were already in a situation where we've been questioning, do they have enough at wide receiver? Mari Cooper, who had some cool comments about Deshaun Watson yesterday, called him a magician with the ball. He is obviously their number 1 receiver, but beyond him, a very good wide receiver, the Browns have a ton of question marks. We know Kareem Hunt's good out of the backfield catching passes. They spent a lot of money on David Njoku. who is at best to this point has been at best mediocre in the tight end ranks. What will he be? And then it's the receivers. It's Bell, the rookie, who starts the season on the PUP list. Now, hopefully he'll be back soon, but we don't know. Anthony Schwartz now hurt. And Donovan Peoples-Jones. So they're a little thin at the position to begin with. If the Schwartz injury ends up being a serious injury, I would like to believe that that would finally force their hand to get back into the free agent market. The name I've been talking about, and others, I'm not the only one, but the name I've been talking about for a while is Will Fuller. And Will Fuller is the type of guy that the Browns hope Anthony Schwartz can be like. Not the injury part, because Will Fuller's had a major problem with injuries in his career, and that's what has sidetracked what could have been a very promising career, and may still possibly be a very promising career. He's the only wide receiver under the age of 30 that's accomplished anything in the league that's a free agent right now. And I thought he made a ton of sense to begin with because of his relationship with Deshaun Watson. They played together unless there's some reason they don't like each other, which, I've never heard any rumblings of that. And so it always made sense. If Anthony Schwartz is seriously injured, then it even makes more sense. I mean, to me, it seems like such a no-brainer. The only thing is, are the Browns waiting to add to that position until they find out what's happening with Deshaun Watson? Because remember, you see the cap and you say, well, the Browns are $40 million under the cap. What's the problem? Why wouldn't they spend money here? Why are they doing that? It's not because Jimmy Haslam's cheap and doesn't want to spend the money. He's shown you that time and time again. The problem is the Browns have so many big contracts that are going to hit next year. The Browns will be, as of now, are projected to be over the cap. Now, I don't want to make too much of that because the cap may go up even more than they expect because the new TV contracts are kicking in next year, which means there's going to be a ton of money. They'll finally be completely over the pandemic setbacks. Plus, there's always ways around the cap. There's always ways to redo contracts. They could, who knows who'll be off the books. Could be a couple guys off the books that you don't expect. And when you have as much cap space as the Browns do, the reason they do is because they need to roll over a lot into next year to make up for all these big contracts they're going to get hit by. Every dollar you spend this year affects dollars you have to spend next year. So you have to take that into account. It's not just simple as saying, well, they have $40 million in cap space. That being said, if Deshaun Watson is your quarterback, then I would assume you're trying to win the Super Bowl. And you can't allow, 3, 5, even 8, 10 million to stop you from trying to improve yourself at an important position to try to potentially win a Super Bowl. But I wonder if that's why they're waiting. Because in reality, we could all say, we said on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show yesterday, I said, listen, if Jacoby Brissett plays instead of Deshaun Watson, whether it's 2 games or 17 games, it's not an excuse for the rest of the players not to play well. But the reality is he won't play as well as Deshaun Watson will, and thus they won't win as many games and likely will not make the playoffs if he somehow played all 17 games and Watson got suspended for the season. So if he somehow gets suspended for the season, then maybe the Browns are like, you know what? We're not going to spend any money here and hurt because it becomes all about next year to some degree. They're not going to admit that publicly, but the reality is they're not winning a Super Bowl without Deshaun Watson. And so if he somehow still got suspended for the whole year, they might say, you know what? We're not going to sign a wide receiver. And if he is suspended for only 8 games or less, that's when maybe they pounce, when they know for sure. I don't love waiting on that, and I don't even know that they're interested in Will Fuller. I'm interested in Will Fuller. The Browns may have zero interest. I know Mary Kay, I think, has said a couple of times that they're not interested. Now, maybe that changes with the injury to Anthony Schwartz. Again, we don't know how serious it is. For all we know, he could be totally fine and back in there today or tomorrow or whatever. But as of now, it looked like a scary situation. And if he is seriously injured, I think that's got it. If they truly were confident, a lot of us were not confident in their depth at wide receiver. I know G. Bush on our show has been very adamant about the Browns needing to add a wide receiver. And that was before Schwartz got hurt. And again, Schwartz is not a guy you were trusting anyway, but he is a guy that was going to be in the mix for one of your top 3 receiver spots, no doubt, as a 3rd-round pick last year. And with his, 10 top-notch speed, there was going to be a role for him, you assume, this year. And if he's seriously hurt, that's out the window, and now your already thin receiving core becomes that much thinner, and I would think they would do something. Again, I think Fuller makes the most sense. He has the most upside of any free agent left. I mean, with Julio Jones signed, there's just not that much left in the wide receiver free agent market. I know T.Y. Hilton is still out there. Who knows if he would play anywhere else besides for the Colts at this point. But, that's about it. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is obviously still available. Does Odell have? Then I can't. But Odell's hurt anyway. He's not going to play until at least part of the season. Other guys, Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is still available. That's about it. Of guys you've heard of. I mean, there's just not that much out there. Let me see if there's anybody else I'm forgetting. Okay, wide receiver, Odell. Antonio Brown. Browns are not going down that road. Will Fuller, obviously, who's still 28, seems to make a lot of sense to me. Cole Beasley still available. I mentioned Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, those guys can help. Those guys are a little older. Beasley 33, Hilton 32, Emmanuel Sanders 35, but they can all still play to varying degrees. Willie Snead. He doesn't really do anything for me. Deshaun Jackson still available. I don't know if he's got anything left in the tank. That's about it. Will Fuller is clearly the best guy left. And he's the only guy left with any kind of upside. Emmanuel Sanders is a good veteran. He's a slot receiver. Certainly. So is Cole Beasley. Good veteran slot receivers. I'd rather take Sanders than Beasley. If I'm the Browns, my first choice would definitely be Will Fuller. My second choice would be Emmanuel Sanders, then probably T.Y. Hilton, and then I'd say Cole Beasley would be fourth. That'd probably be it. Nobody else is really worth going. And again, Odell, I get it, but he's going to be out for a while, so you're not solving the problem. Odell might be able to help this team later, although I don't think they'd go down that road. But he can't help him right now, and that's what you're looking for right now. We'll wait and see what happens with Schwartz. The Browns have said they're confident in their wide receiving core. That may be a smokescreen while they kind of wait and see what they're going to do here, or wait and see what happens with Watson. But if they were, and if Schwartz is out, I got to imagine that changes things. That puts them, that has to, I believe, put them on a different plane of understanding. Because, they're already thin. And you got to get the help, especially if Schwartz is out. Speaking of wide receivers, the Seahawks, another big contract extension. Seahawks and DK Metcalf have agreed to a 3-year, $72 million extension. Gets a $30 million signing bonus, $58.2 million guaranteed of his $72 million. That's a lot for the 3-year extension for DK Metcalf, who it seemed like wanted to be gone from Seattle, who has, the worst quarterback situation in football. I've been taking shots at the Steelers, and their quarterback situation is obviously not very good. Mitch Trubisky and what's his name? I can't even think of the name of the quarterback they drafted. Who the hell is the Steelers quarterback? Why can't I think of his name? Not Matt Corral. That's the Panthers guy. I know right now you're screaming at the podcast saying, why can you not think of that name? Steelers. Why can't I think of his quarterback? This is going to drive me crazy. Now I got to look it up. Steelers quarterback. Kenny Pickett. Jeez, I couldn't think of it. And then the great Kazoo Mason Rudolph. That's a bad quarterback situation. But the Seattle Seahawks... that's even worse. Their 3 quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Drew Lock, and Jacob Eason. Oh, my God. That's got to be one of the all-time worst quarterback rooms. That's just hideous. I know my buddy Dustin Fox loves Geno. I think he still loves Geno. I haven't spoken to him about Geno in a while. But Gino's going to turn 32 soon, and he's never done a thing. But apparently, he's the favorite to win that job, even over Drew Lock. But yeah, that's a awful situation. But at least they got two good receivers, and they just extended DK Metcalf. All right, folks, let me talk to you about BetOnline here. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, golf, esports, and combat sports. I'll be honest, I don't even know what combat sports is. Is that just like, I guess I know what combat sports is. Is that like MMA and boxing, right? I was thinking there was something else, but I guess it's just boxing and MMA, whatever. You can bet on anything. That's the point. That's why it's great. That's why BetOnline.net is the best. They continue to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, even if you don't know what the hell the sports are. Live in-game betting, scores, podcasts, they've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. I wanted to spend a few minutes, some of it's jealousy. I'm not going to lie. There are some very successful national radio guys and TV guys that drive me crazy. And maybe the top of the list is Colin Cowherd. I'm not a fan of Colin Cowherd. I respect him. He is highly successful. He's made a ton of money. He gets all top guests. The guy's an accomplished guy. I respect the hustle. I respect his accomplishments. I don't like his style. And what I hate that really drives me crazy, and he does this, and I guess we all do it in this business to some degree, but he does it, drives me crazy. Like, it's okay to admit you don't know everything. Now, I'm very cocky about the things that I think I know, right? Like when it comes to baseball or my thoughts on Baker or whatever. Like, I'm very cocky about it. Sometimes it can be obnoxious. People can find me annoying. I get that. But, like, if somebody's asking, like, for example, if you watch, like, one of those shows on ESPN, Around the Horn or whatever, like, they're talking about hockey. Does everybody know about hockey? Most people in sports broadcasting don't know about hockey. Don't be a phony. I don't know anything. I mean, if we're doing an interview about hockey, I will prepare as best I can. But the reality is I don't think I could name 10 NHL players these days. I could when I was a kid, but I can't now. I don't really care about hockey. We don't talk about it on when I was working on the radio station. I don't talk about it on the podcast. I don't talk about it on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I'm not interested in it as a fan. So why would I care? And I'm not, and that's not to diss anybody that loves hockey. I think it's a great sport. My son's interested in playing. I have done play-by-play for hockey. I enjoy going to hockey occasionally. I've gone to the Monsters games. They put on a great show there. A lot of energy, excitement. I've had a ton of fun. I'm not dissing the sport. It's just not my thing. And so I'm not gonna if there was like a hockey topic that I had to talk about for some reason. I'm not going to come on the podcast or the TV show and pretend I know anything about hockey. I don't know. Just like with college football, I pay attention to Ohio State, a little bit the other championship contenders, a little bit with the rest of the Big Ten, and that's it. I don't know what's going on in these other conferences. I don't know anything about the Pac-12. I couldn't tell you players in the Pac-12 for the most part. And then the worst phonies are the ones that they're an expert on every draft pick. Like, we got guys that do this for a living. Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, Dane Brugler, on and on. There's a lot of guys who, like, that's their job. They get these things wrong, and the GMs get it wrong. But some schmo who's like a sports radio guy is like, all of a sudden he's a genius on every draft pick. Oh yeah, that guy drafted in the 5th round. I saw him play for, North Carolina L&Q, and I'll tell you something. That guy, he's phenomenal. No, just say you don't know who the hell he is. It's okay. I respect you, my audience, enough to know that you're not going to stop listening to me because I'm honest about that. I'm not going to pretend to know everything. As I said, I'm cocky enough about the things I know. When it comes to baseball or football, to some degree basketball, I'll argue with you till I'm blue in the face for something I believe, but I'll admit when I'm wrong, and I'll certainly admit when I don't know. And so that takes me to Colin Cowherd, he just rubs me the wrong way. And today he's so smug. They were talking about Kyler Murray's contract. I'll get to that too, because the Kyler Murray contract thing is weird. I'll get to that subject. But they were talking about he and his co-host, although technically she's not his co-host. I don't know. Was it Maria Taylor? I can't think. Maria Taylor, I believe. And they're talking about Kyler Murray's contract, and they were saying, well, is it possible he didn't know this clause? I'm sure many of you have heard already. He has a clause in his contract about having to study a certain amount of hours, which makes him look bad, makes the team look bad. But anyway, and Colin's like, I've never looked at my contract before. Like, don't be such an arrogant. He's so cool. Give me a break. You've never looked at a contract. You had an agent from the second you started in the business. How many people in this business, like, you didn't have a famous daddy. It's not like Joe Buck, whose dad was in the business already, so maybe he had an agent when he first started. Most people in this business, in the sports radio business, sports TV, you don't have an agent when you start your career. So what, Colin Cowherd's never looked at his contract before? It's so smarmy. He's like, oh, he's too cool for school. I'm a cool California guy. I'm going to go in my pool later today. And, I never look at my contract, so maybe Kyler Murray hadn't looked at his. You're a full of crap, Cowherd. You never looked at your contract. I just look at the checks, whatever. He's such an arrogant puss head. Why they pay him what they do, I have no idea. But anyway, but then he talks about, I'm not saying Colin Cowherd doesn't know stuff. He knows football, knows basketball to some degree. He spends most of his show on football. That's not unreasonable. We spend most of our show on football. That's what most people do, right? Nowadays. But every once in a while he talks about baseball, and he don't know anything about baseball. And maybe he was just kidding. I don't even know why I put it on. I almost never, I say, I'm one of these people who says, but people say to me, oh, I hate you. I'm not going to listen anymore. I know you keep listening. You tell me you're not going to listen. You're going to unfollow. Nobody ever does that. I really don't listen to Colin Cowherd very often, but once in a while I throw him on, I think to get myself annoyed. I don't know why I do it, but I happen to put him on for like 5 minutes today, or yesterday, I should say. And he's talking, Joy does the news, and she says something about the Mets beating the Yankees, and Colin starts waxing poetic about Max Scherzer, and he goes, I'll tell you, nobody's ever said this before, but Max Scherzer is going to the Hall of Fame. Like, he said that as if he were making a bold statement. Max Scherzer, I take him over anybody in the playoffs. What? I mean, where you been, Colin? We've all known this for a decade. Colin Cowherd thought he was breaking new ground by saying that Max Scherzer is going to the Hall of Fame. Well, no freaking kidding. Everybody that follows baseball knows that. He doesn't follow baseball. Maybe they wrote that in the script. I don't know. Anyway, what they were talking about also was the Kyler Murray thing, and I wanted to get into that as well, because the thing in Kyler Murray's contract that he's got to study independently for 4 hours, that is a massive red flag. And if I'm Kyler Murray, and if I'm the Cardinals right now, I'm embarrassed. Why this got out, who leaked this, I have no idea. Both sides look terrible. Kyler Murray looks like he's not working hard enough. And the Cardinals look like they just paid a ton of money, guaranteed, 240-something million, 50-something million, to a guy they don't have full faith in. How stupid is that? And by the way, if Kyler Murray has to be forced to do film study, he's never going to be a great quarterback. I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy. He's a good, he's a nice player, but he has collapsed at the end of every season in the NFL. He's always hurt. I think he's going to have at his size, I think he's going to have a very hard time staying healthy. He runs a lot. Lamar runs a lot, but he doesn't take the hits that Kyler Murray does. I know Lamar got hurt last year. I'm less worried about him long-term physically. Kyler Murray, I would never have paid him this contract. What, he's going to hold out and not get paid? I mean, I don't know. Now, it's a tricky spot because if you're the Cardinals, Kyler Murray's a pretty good quarterback. He's somewhere probably between, around the 15th best quarterback or 13th, whatever. Somewhere in that 11 to 15 range probably. And that's good. That's a tricky spot to be in because it's like, well, it's going to be almost impossible to get someone better. But is he really worth this money? And no, I don't. I mean, listen, you are worth what anybody's willing to pay you. They were willing to pay him, so he's worth that money. But I would not have paid Kyler Murray that money. I would not pay Lamar Jackson yet. I'd want him to do it for another year. And I ultimately I would pay Lamar probably because I think he is going to do it this year. But just like with Baker last year, it's like, don't pay him now. Let's wait and see. And we saw it, and he wasn't worth the money. And I would have done the same thing with Kyler, and I'd do the same thing with Lamar. And I got a lot more faith in Lamar than I do in Kyler, but I'm not paying Kyler Murray. No. But they did. And if that clause is in there because he's not spending enough time working, like to be the best if you want to be a great quarterback, you should never be told that you have to spend more time studying. Never. I can't imagine the great quarterbacks in this league, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Joe Burrow. Nobody's telling these guys they got to work hard. Nobody's telling these guys they got to study. I remember hearing about Russell Wilson, Tom Brady after the Super Bowl. They're studying the next day. If they got to put a clause in Kyler Murray's contract telling me he has to have at least four studying hours out of the facility, wow, that contract's even worse than I thought it was. I'll take another break. Come back, and I got a couple of final thoughts for you. Right after this, it's the bullpen with Adam the Bull. All right, good to see one of our best bets on the show yesterday was Jose Ramirez over under 3 total bases, and with Jose's home run early in the game last night, went over that. That was pretty sweet to see. Now this, I've talked a lot about the Guardians lately. Today on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show yesterday, I talked about a blockbuster trade where the Guardians would trade Gabriel Arias, another good prospect, not top 5, but maybe a top 10 prospect, and then a couple of other flyer prospects to the Cubs for a 4-player package. Ian Happ in the outfield, Wilson Contreras catcher, Wade Miley a starting pitcher, and David Robertson a relief pitcher. You'd help yourself in all 4 spots that you need help. Now, all those guys are free agents at the end of the year except for Happ, but you're only giving up 1 top prospect in Arias, and Happ is a really good outfielder. Would immediately be your best outfielder. You'd probably put him right in the cleanup spot behind Jose, and I think that would make a lot of sense. I'm sure I'll hear from something like, no, we can't trade Arias. Well, you got to trade something to get something. I'm giving you a decent back-end starter. Wade Miley's just about ready to come off the IL. Hasn't pitched that much this year. Was great last year. Has made 4 starts for the Cubs this year and has been good. Excuse me. He's been good when he's pitched, but he's been hurt. But he's rehabbing right now, rehab assignment. He's just about ready to go. And, Plesac's been lousy. Quantrill's been lousy. Savali's been lousy and hurt. Miley's been hurt, but he could end up being their 3rd best starter. He could help. Robertson could help the back end of the pen. Not obviously Clase is going to close, but he could help there. Wilson Contreras is a major upgrade offensively at catcher, and Ian Happ is a big time up. I mean, you'd probably have your 4 and 5 hitters right there. They'd be batting in the top 5 or 6 in the line. I mean, you would add your 2nd and 3rd best hitters, with Jimenez. So now you'd have Rosario, Ramirez, Franmil, Contreras, Jimenez, and Happ. Nolan Jones could keep hitting. Josh Naylor. I mean, that's a huge. You'd upgrade 2 spots in the lineup. That'd be huge. Love to see it. I bet it won't happen, though. Anyway, all right. So, as I've been saying, I'm going on vacation next week. So, this is the last podcast for me until Monday, Monday, August the 8th. And after today, Friday, obviously, after today's show on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I will be back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show also on August the 8th. I'm off all next week. I'm excited about my vacation, need a little break. and then I'm raring to go. Although I will have some FOMO, fear of missing out, because I have a feeling the Watson news will probably break while I'm gone. But we'll see. Maybe it'll happen today. But make sure you follow me on Twitter, please, at Adam the Bull. We are less than 200 subscriptions away from reaching our goal of 11,000 before the end of July with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, in which my podcast is under that umbrella. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Hit the bell to get notifications. If there's breaking news on Watson, we'll break into a Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show whatever time of day it is. Although when I'm on vacation, I won't be part of it if it happens then. Check out my Cameo, please, if you want me to do videos for you. Congratulations, birthday. Ripping a buddy for his terribleness in fantasy football. And check out the Locked On Browns podcast with my buddy G. Bush. I will talk to you on Monday, August the 8th. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.